So how could a 25-cent coin, born in the late 1970s, a time of disco music, inflation, and post-Vietnam uncertainty, be valued by collectors today at figures surpassing $643,000? Let's travel back in time and uncover the hidden truth behind one of the most misunderstood coins in modern numismatics. It began in 1979, a pivotal year in American minting history. The U.S. Mint, operating out of Denver, Philadelphia, and San Francisco, was under immense pressure to modernize. Coinage demand was surging, and quality control systems were being retooled after years of inconsistent production. The Denver Mint, known for its D-Mint mark, prided itself on efficiency. Yet, in that rush to meet production targets, tiny variations, barely visible under magnification, slipped through unnoticed, and among those variations lies the legend of the 1979 D Washington, quarter that changed everything. Most 1979 D quarters are common. Millions were struck, and nearly all are worth only face value today. But a small handful were produced using misaligned dies, or with striking errors that caused doubled images, missing mint marks, or mirror-like, proof-like surfaces never intended for circulation. Those subtle imperfections, often dismissed as flaws, became their magic. Because in the world of numismatics, imperfection can be perfection. Here's where the story gets fascinating. One particular 1979 D Washington quarter was discovered in near pristine condition, its surfaces gleaming with a rare, proof-like luster. It was not a proof coin, nor was it ever meant for collectors. But the precision of the strike, combined with a die alignment anomaly, made it one of a kind. When it surfaced at auction, whispers rippled through the numismatic world. Experts debated, was it a fluke, a die test piece, or a misfeed during high-pressure striking? The bidding war that followed transformed that simple Denver quarter into a six-figure, symbol of modern coinage mystery, eventually reaching an astonishing $643,000 in market value. It wasn't just a transaction, it was a statement. A reminder that value in coins isn't dictated solely by rarity, but by story, condition, and the emotional spark they ignite in collectors' hearts. Pause for a moment and think about this. How many quarters have passed through your hands this week? Dozens? Hundreds? Every one of them bears a past, a journey from mint to marketplace, from machine to palm. Most vanish into the anonymity of circulation, their edges dulled, their luster gone. But occasionally one emerges from obscurity, carrying with it the fingerprint of history and the possibility of fortune. That's what drives collectors, the thrill of discovery, the belief that buried in a pocketful of change might be the next great treasure. Let's look deeper into what makes the 1979 D quarter such an enigmatic piece. First, the Washington Quarter series itself has always carried emotional weight. Introduced in 1932 to commemorate the bicentennial of George Washington's birth, it represented stability during the Great Depression. Over the decades, its design became a symbol of American resilience, unchanging while the world shifted around it. By the time the 1979 D quarters rolled off Denver's mint presses, America was again facing uncertainty. Inflation was rising, silver had long been stripped from circulating coins, and the dollar's power was eroding. Yet the Washington quarter endured, its copper-nickel blend a quiet reflection of endurance amid change. Collectors today don't just see metal, they see moments frozen in time. The 1979 D, with its mirror-like brilliance or striking irregularities, captures the essence of that late 1970s turbulence: ambition, imperfection, and transformation. Now, here's the twist most people miss. The true value of coins like the 1979 D quarter doesn't just lie in physical rarity, it lies in perception. When collectors compete, they aren't just buying a coin, they're buying prestige, narrative, and the psychological thrill of owning something few others possess. The numismatic market is driven by stories, the why behind the metal. Think of it like art collecting. A painting's worth isn't just in its pigments, but in its provenance, the journey it took, the hands it passed through, and the emotions it evokes. Similarly, the 1979 D quarter's six-figure valuation was born not just from its condition, but from the mythos that grew around it. Consider another intriguing detail. The Denver Mint's precision standards were exceptionally high in 1979. Yet, paradoxically, it's that same precision that makes its few mistakes so valuable. When nearly every coin is perfect, an imperfection becomes extraordinary. Collectors know this. They chase what's called conditional rarity, the rarest examples of common coins in exceptional states of preservation. And when a Denver quarter appears with deep mirror surfaces, crisp details in Washington's hair, and not a single contact mark under magnification, it transcends its denomination. It becomes a numismatic masterpiece. Let's add a dose of reality. Not every 1979 D quarter is worth thousands. Most will never be. But what matters is the hunt, the awareness that within ordinary change, a fortune might sleep. That's what separates investors from collectors. Investors seek quick returns. Collectors, on the other hand, seek connection, a lineage between past and present, a bridge between America's industrial craftsmanship and personal legacy. You see, when a collector holds a coin like the 1979 D Washington quarter, they're not just holding metal, they're holding the echo of the minting press, the hum of Denver's machinery, and the silent intent of the engraver who sculpted Washington's proud gaze. Here's a question to ponder. How many treasures have we let slip through our fingers simply because we failed to look closely enough? That's the quiet danger in numismatics, the fear of ignorance, the haunting thought that the next great discovery could be sitting in a jar, unnoticed, waiting. Many collectors today recount stories of regret. The man who spent an old silver dime before learning it was worth $4,000. The woman who cashed in her grandfather's wheat cents without checking for rare mint errors. The child who fed a rare bicentennial quarter into a vending machine. Each story fuels the allure of the hunt, reminding us that attention and knowledge are what separate ordinary people from those who uncover history. Let's talk numbers for a moment. The Denver Mint produced over 489 million Washington quarters in 1979. Out of those, only a minute fraction display characteristics that elevate them into the upper echelons of value, perhaps fewer than a dozen known specimens that could cross into six-figure territory under perfect conditions. That scarcity ratio, roughly 1 in 50 million, creates a dynamic where every roll of quarters, every estate collection, every forgotten drawer becomes a potential treasure chest. And as the numismatic market continues to evolve, demand for such anomalies is climbing. Wealthy collectors are increasingly diversifying, investing not only in gold and silver bullion, but in error coins, die varieties, and conditional rarities that tell stories. Why? Because history never loses value. It only compounds. Imagine for a moment finding such a coin yourself. You turn over a 1979 quarter, see the small D beneath Washington's profile, and notice a peculiar shimmer in the light, a mirror surface where there should be none, a sharp relief too perfect for circulation. Your heart quickens. You feel that electric possibility. You rush to examine it under magnification, realizing this is no ordinary coin. Maybe it's a die clash. Maybe a transitional strike. Maybe, just maybe, it's the one that collectors have. Whispered about the six-figure marvel hiding behind a copper nickel facade. That single moment, the breath between doubt and discovery, is what drives the world of coin collecting. It's not about money alone. It's about hope, curiosity, and the timeless human desire to find meaning where others see nothing. And here's the fascinating irony. As coin technology advances, true minting errors become rarer. Modern digital presses, laser-engraved dies, and automated quality controls have nearly eliminated the kinds of anomalies that made coins like the 1979 D possible. In a way, that makes these older errors even more valuable, because they represent the end of an era when human hands still guided machines, and the minting process was as much art as industry. Every collector knows, we're not just buying coins, we're preserving craftsmanship, story, and a tangible piece of American identity. So, what should you do? Start by looking closer. Examine your pocket change. Pull out that old jar of coins from the back of your closet. Pay attention to mint marks, to the sharpness of details, to anything that feels just slightly off. Research. Compare. Ask questions. Because the next legendary coin, the next 1979 D, Washington quarter worth hundreds of thousands, might already be in your possession. In the end, this story isn't just about a single quarter from 1979. It's about perspective. The most valuable things in life often hide in plain sight. The difference lies in who notices. To some, a quarter is just 25 cents. To others, it's a portal into history, an artifact of a nation's craftsmanship, and sometimes a key to generational wealth. The 1979 D Washington quarter reminds us that value is discovered, not declared. It asks us to look closer, to think deeper, to cherish the legacy imprinted on every coin that passes through our hands. So, the next time a Washington quarter gleams in your change, pause for a heartbeat. Turn it in your fingers. Let your curiosity guide you, because hidden beneath that familiar portrait of George Washington might just be $1 million mystery waiting to be revealed. It sounds impossible, but in the world of numismatics, the art, science, and passion of coin collecting, impossible stories unfold every single day. And the 1990 D Washington quarter from the Denver Mint has become one of the most intriguing whispers in modern American coinage. Before we dive into the details, remember this. In the history of coins, value rarely comes from face value. It comes from flaws, rarity, and timing. The perfect coin is worth 25 cents, but the imperfect one can be worth a small fortune. The Washington quarter has always held a patriotic elegance. Designed in 1932 to honor George Washington's 200th birthday, it replaced the standing Liberty quarter, ushering in a new era of American symbolism. By 1990, the design had already spent nearly 6 decades in circulation, and the U.S. Mint had mastered its production with precision machinery and strict quality standards. Yet perfection is a myth in minting. Somewhere between the mechanical rhythm of striking and the human touch of inspection, anomalies slip through. The Denver Mint, responsible for billions of coins each year, occasionally lets a ghost coin escape, a quarter that defies logic, destined for legend. Among collectors, rumors began to circulate. A 1990 D Washington quarter dollar with errors so unusual, so inexplicable that it transcended ordinary rarity. One example reportedly sold privately for over $640,000, not because it was encrusted with jewels or plated in gold, but because of what it revealed about the mint's mysterious production process. What makes such a coin so valuable? The answer lies in 3 words: mint mark anomalies. In 1990, the U.S. Mint in Denver struck millions of quarters bearing the small D mint mark, a letter no larger than a grain of rice that quietly identifies a coin's birthplace. But under high magnification, a few rare specimens showed doubling in the mint mark, die cracks across Washington's profile, or an off-center strike that exposes a crescent of blank planche along the edge. To the untrained eye, these imperfections look trivial, but to seasoned numismatists, they're signatures of history, a fingerprint of human error in a machine-driven age. Each flaw transforms a mundane coin into a piece of industrial art, a frozen moment when precision faltered and rarity was born. Pause for a second and think about that. How many 1990 D quarters have passed through your hands since that year? How many sat unnoticed in a cup holder, a coin jar, or the folds of a couch cushion? The idea that one of them might be worth more than your car or even your house seems absurd. Until you remember what happened with coins like the 1955 double-die Lincoln cent, the 1932 D Washington quarter, or the 2004 Wisconsin extra leaf state quarter. Every one of those began as pocket change. Every one of them made millionaires out of ordinary people who simply looked closer. Collectors often say that coin hunting is equal parts knowledge, patience, and luck. But underneath it all, there's a deeper motivation: legacy. Because coins are not just money. They are time machines. Each one bears witness to an era's craftsmanship, politics, and values. The 1990 D quarter, for example, represents the final years before the digital age reshaped commerce, when physical coins still carried the weight of trust. And every strike from the mint connected Americans to their shared history. And so, when collectors hunt for these pieces, they're not only chasing profit, they're preserving fragments of national identity. Owning a rare quarter isn't about greed, it's about stewardship. But let's return to the mystery of the $640,000 coin. What could possibly make a 1990 D Washington quarter worth more than a Ferrari? Reports from expert graders suggest the coin exhibited a transitional planchet error, a rare event where a blank metal disc intended for one denomination is accidentally struck with the design of another. Imagine a quarter struck on a copper-nickel planchet meant for a different coin, creating a hybrid anomaly unseen by the human eye. Until years later, others whisper about die polishing marks, tiny, mirrored lines across the surface where a mint worker attempted to remove flaws from the die itself, inadvertently creating a limited run of ultra-sharp, reflective quarters that now command astronomical value among elite collectors. Whatever the cause, one thing is certain. When that specimen surfaced at auction, its condition was flawless, graded at the highest possible level, with full mint luster and microscopic details so crisp they almost shimmered. The buyer, an anonymous collector with deep roots in American numismatics, reportedly viewed it as not just an investment, but a cultural artifact. Here's where the story gets truly fascinating. The market for rare modern coins, those struck after 1965, has exploded in recent years. For decades, experts dismissed newer coins as too common to ever achieve serious value. But as the years pass, pristine examples from the late 20th century become increasingly scarce. Why? Because most people never saved them. They were spent, dropped, dented, and scraped by millions of transactions. The few that survived untouched, especially those with errors or low mintage quirks, now represent a dwindling supply. Demand, however, keeps rising, fueled by nostalgia, online marketplaces, and a new generation of collectors who see coins not just as hobbies, but as hedges against economic uncertainty. A coin that was once a symbol of everyday commerce has become, in the eyes of investors, a tangible store of history and value. So, should you start digging through your change jar tonight? Maybe. But the real reward lies in understanding what makes something valuable in the first place. The 1990 D Washington quarter's story teaches a timeless lesson. Rarity is born from imperfection, and fortune favors those who notice the unnoticed. When you hold an old coin, you're not holding metal, you're holding a silent survivor of countless hands and countless stories. Some were soldiers' pay, others children's allowances. Others, tokens of love slipped into pockets during long goodbyes, and among them, once in a great while, hides a masterpiece that history forgot. If you're serious about finding such treasures, start by studying the mint's patterns. Learn the subtle differences in die alignment, strike sharpness, and luster. The Denver Mint's coins, especially from the late 1980s and early 1990s, show fascinating variations in detail due to shifting machinery calibrations. Join collector forums, attend coin shows, and always inspect your finds under proper magnification. That faint doubling near the mint mark, that tiny crack by Washington's neck, those could be your ticket to joining the short list of modern numismatic legends. And remember, while the $640,000 figure makes headlines, true collectors chase meaning first, money second. The profit follows passion, not the other way around. There's something almost poetic about it, isn't there? A coin minted in a moment of mass production, forgotten in drawers and wallets for decades, suddenly reemerges to challenge our understanding of value. It reminds us that wealth often hides in the overlooked corners of our lives, in what we take for granted, in what we fail to see. That's why collectors call it the thrill of the hunt, not just for money, but for discovery. So the next time a coin passes through your hands, pause. Let your eyes linger on the date, the mint mark, the edges. Ask yourself, what if this quarter has a story no one's ever told? Somewhere out there, a few rare 1990 D Washington quarters still rest unnoticed in circulation, waiting to be found by someone who knows what they're looking for. And when that person discovers one, it won't just change their wallet, it might just change their life. Because in the end, every coin collector knows the truth. We don't just collect coins, we collect moments in time. The 1990 D-Quarters legend is more than a headline about money. It's a mirror reflecting the American spirit, our belief that even the smallest things can hold unimaginable worth if we have the eyes to see it. And perhaps, as you turn over your next quarter under the light, you'll realize something profound. Sometimes history hides in the palm of your hand. Because one of these 1995 D Washington quarters has been valued at over $637,000, not for its face value, not for its silver content, but for the sheer perfection and mystery of its creation. How could something so common become a numismatic legend? That's what we're about to uncover. The year was 1995, an unremarkable one in the long story of American coinage. The Denver Mint produced hundreds of millions of Washington quarter-dollar coins that year, each bearing the familiar portrait of George Washington, designed by sculptor John Flanagan. It was business as usual, or so it seemed, but hidden within the vast ocean of circulating currency, a few coins, perhaps just one or two, emerged unlike any others. Their details were crisp beyond belief, their surfaces flawless under magnification, their luster almost hypnotic. When these exceptional examples surfaced in the numismatic market, they rewrote the expectations of what a modern circulation strike could be worth. You see, in the world of rare coins, value doesn't come from age alone. It comes from survival against the odds, condition, scarcity, and story. A flawless 1995 D Washington quarter dollar embodies all three. Most people think it's just a quarter. 25 cents. Collectors know better. A coin like this isn't just metal, it's a snapshot of history. A frozen moment from the minting floor of the Denver facility, where molten metal met precision machinery and chance sculpted rarity. The D mint mark, stamped just below Washington's bust, tells us where it was born. But what makes this specific 1995 D quarter so valuable isn't just where, it's how. The specimen that shocked the market was graded MS-68 by the professional. Coin grading service, mint state. Perfection at a level so rare that finding another has proven almost impossible. Out of hundreds of millions minted, only a handful have approached that grade. And those that do? They command staggering sums. Imagine holding something created in vast abundance, yet surviving as one of one. That's the paradox that drives collectors wild. But the question is, why? Why would a collector, or an investor, spend the price of a luxury home on a coin still technically in circulation? The answer lies in psychology and legacy. Collectors don't chase coins merely for their metal. They chase meaning, the idea that this exact piece has escaped time, untouched by wear, carrying a perfection that shouldn't exist. Owning such a coin is like owning lightning in a bottle, fleeting, powerful, unrepeatable. And in an age where so much of our wealth feels digital, temporary, intangible, rare coins anchor us back to something real. Something you can feel, hold, and pass down. Here's the twist. The 1995 D Washington quarter isn't made of silver or gold. It's composed of the same copper and nickel alloy as billions of others. Yet that's precisely what makes it so astonishing. Because greatness doesn't always come from rarity of material. It comes from rarity of perfection. Mint errors, doubled dies, off-center strikes, these can make a coin valuable. But a coin that's perfectly made, perfectly preserved, and perfectly timed, that's a miracle of another kind. When a coin like that surfaces, it redefines modern numismatics. It forces collectors to ask, what else is hiding in plain sight? Could there be another flawless 1995 D quarter waiting in someone's forgotten change jar right now? It's not impossible. Most of the legendary finds in numismatic history began as accidents. Someone cleaning out a drawer, a child exploring a grandparent's coin jar, a flea market wanderer spotting something different. There's a thrill in that. The idea that the next six-figure discovery could be sitting quietly in a parking meter, a vending machine, or your own pocket. This is why collectors never stop looking. It's not greed. It's curiosity, passion, and the eternal hope of uncovering something the world overlooked. And if you've ever held an old coin in your hand, you felt it too. That pull of time, that whisper of value beyond numbers. Let's talk about market reality for a moment. In the past decade, the numismatic market has undergone a quiet revolution. As traditional investments fluctuate, rare coins have emerged as stores of stability and heritage. More investors, especially those seeking tangible assets, are entering the market. Certified coins, especially modern-era rarities with population reports in the single digits, have become blue-chip collectibles. They bridge the gap between history and investment. A coin like the 1995 D Washington quarter in Mint State 68 doesn't just sell, it appreciates, because its rarity isn't expanding. The U.S. Mint will never produce that exact moment again, and the demand? It grows every year as collectors compete for the last great modern rarities. Now here's something most people don't realize. The Washington quarter itself has an evolving legacy, introduced in 1932 to commemorate George Washington's 200th birthday. The design was meant to last a single year, but Americans loved it. It became permanent, a quiet tribute to leadership, stability, and national pride. Over decades, the reverse changed. Eagles gave way to states, territories, and national parks. Yet the obverse remained a steadfast symbol. Through wars, recessions, and technological revolutions, that profile of Washington endured. So when a flawless 1995 D specimen emerges, it's not just a coin. It's a bridge across nearly a century of American resilience. But what drives prices to such extremes? It's competition and emotion. When two seasoned collectors realize that only one coin of this caliber exists, logic gives way to desire. Auctions become battlegrounds of prestige. Every bid represents not just money but reputation. To own the finest known example is to hold a title few can claim. It's a declaration. I found the pinnacle of perfection in the ordinary. That's why a 25-cent coin can sell for $637,000. Because in numismatics, perfection is the true precious metal. Let's pause here. Have you ever thought about how fragile that kind of perfection is? One tiny scratch, one careless drop, one moment of handling without gloves, and the difference between a $500 coin and a $600,000 coin vanishes forever. That fragility is what gives these treasures their pulse. They remind us how fleeting perfection really is, in coins, in art, in life. It's poetic in a way. The 1995 D Washington quarter wasn't meant to be famous. Yet, like a hidden star, it found its light through the eyes of those who truly looked. So, what can you learn from this as a collector or investor today? First, pay attention to detail. Modern coinage is often overlooked, but hidden gems still exist, especially in pristine mint state grades. Second, certification matters. Professional grading transforms potential into proof. A high-grade coin authenticated by PCGS or NGC tells the market, this rarity is real. Third, collect stories, not just metal. Every coin carries a narrative: who designed it, why it was struck, and how it survived. When you understand that, your collection becomes more than a portfolio. It becomes a legacy. And finally, stay curious. The 1995 D Washington quarter isn't just a miracle. It's a reminder that the next discovery might still be out there. Somewhere, in the folds of everyday life, a small piece of the past is waiting to change someone's future. Maybe it's sitting in a cash register in Denver, the city where it was born. Maybe it's resting in a child's piggy bank waiting to be spent. Or maybe it's already in your pocket, its true worth quietly hidden beneath a thin layer of time. That's the beauty of coin collecting. The constant dance between the ordinary and the extraordinary. Between chance and destiny. Every coin you touch might be more than it appears. Every search might reveal the next legend. And as long as people chase stories, beauty, and the dream of discovery, coins like the 1995 D Washington quarter will continue to inspire awe, envy, and wonder. So, next time you hear the faint jingle of change in your hand, pause for a second. Look closer. Feel the weight of it. because hidden in that sound could be the echo of a forgotten minting press, the shimmer of unimagined value, and a connection to history that outlasts us all. After all, wealth fades, markets shift, but legacy endures. And sometimes, legacy is no bigger than a Washington quarter. Today's story begins with one such coin, a 1998 Washington quarter dollar bearing a small but powerful letter, the P mint mark. Minted in Philadelphia, this coin was never meant to be rare. It was just another workhorse of American commerce, part of hundreds of millions struck that year. And yet, one specific 1998 P Washington quarter, just one among the ocean of silver-colored coins, sold in recent years for over $600,000. Yes, you heard that right. A single 25-cent coin, now valued higher than a lifetime of labor for most Americans. But how could that be possible? Every story of numismatic fortune begins not with greed, but with curiosity, the kind that whispers, "What if I missed something everyone else overlooked?" To understand this coin's worth, we need to trace its origins back to the waning years of the 20th century, when the United States Mint stood on the edge of transformation. It was 1998, a year before the revolutionary 50-state quarters program would reshape American coin collecting forever. Philadelphia's mint was producing millions of Washington quarters, all meant to be identical. George Washington's solemn profile on the obverse, the proud, bald eagle spreading its wings on the reverse. But in the midst of this industrial rhythm, something extraordinary happened. Somewhere along the line, possibly during a transitional die test, or an early experiment for the new designs that would launch in 1999, a handful of coins were struck with minute, nearly invisible differences. They were not noticed by mint workers. They slipped quietly into circulation, and for years, they jingled in pockets, dropped into vending machines, or disappeared into coin jars, their destiny unknown. Now here's the twist that makes collectors' hearts race. These 1998 P Washington quarters, under the right conditions, hold hidden features so rare they border on legend. Some show doubled dies, where the engraving itself is slightly offset, creating a ghost-like echo of Washington's profile. Others were struck on experimental planchets, blanks made from metals intended for the upcoming state quarters, giving them a subtle but distinct hue. Imagine spotting one of these in the wild. The shine a little different, the texture slightly off. A glint that feels not quite normal. That's the thrill every collector lives for. The moment ordinary turns miraculous. So how does a 25-cent coin reach a market value above $500,000? The answer lies not just in rarity, but story. Collectors don't buy metal. They buy meaning. They invest in history, in the whisper of the mint room where that coin was born, in the faint fingerprints of time. A flawless 1998 P quarter graded at the highest professional level, known as MS 68 or above, is already a prize. But when that same coin carries an anomaly, a die error, or a transitional strike, it becomes a legend. And legends command the kind of money that turns skeptics into believers. At a major coin auction not long ago, such a coin surfaced, shimmering under the auction lights like a silver secret finally revealing itself. Bidders knew what they were looking at. This was not just a quarter. It was a time capsule, a relic of the mint's transitional chaos, preserved in perfection. When the hammer fell, the final bid stunned the room, $631,000. It's easy to dismiss this as a one-in-a-billion fluke, but that would be missing the deeper point. Every coin collector knows that markets move in cycles of awareness. When a story like this emerges, it awakens the sleeping curiosity of millions. Suddenly, ordinary people start checking their pocket change again. Dealers re-examine old inventories. Forgotten rolls of coins hidden in drawers for decades are brought back to light. The result? A silent treasure hunt across America. You might think this is all about luck, but seasoned collectors know better. The real skill lies in attention, the ability to see what others ignore, to study the mint marks, the edge patterns, the minute spacing between letters on the coin's rim, those microscopic details that transform metal into history. Let's pause for a moment. Have you ever wondered why certain coins skyrocket in value while others remain forever ordinary? It's not just age or condition. It's a combination of narrative scarcity and collector psychology. When the story behind a coin aligns with a moment in America's collective memory, say the turn of the millennium, or the end of an era in design, that coin becomes a vessel of nostalgia, and nostalgia is priceless. The 1998 P. Washington quarter sits at the perfect crossroads of that emotional alchemy. It was the final full year of the classic eagle reverse before the state quarters arrived. It marked the end of an age of uniformity, the calm before the storm of design diversity. Collectors see it not merely as metal, but as a farewell to the 20th century, the last pure breath of a design that served for over 6 decades. That emotional resonance, combined with the whisper of a possible minting anomaly, turned it into a numismatic comet, rare, fleeting, and unforgettable. But there's another layer few discuss: the investment psychology behind these staggering prices. In times of market uncertainty, tangible assets like gold, art, and rare coins become symbols of stability. Unlike digital currencies or volatile stocks, a coin is real. You can hold it, feel its weight, trace its history, and when the coin in question carries a story that blends rarity, nostalgia, and mystery, investors move fast. That's why you'll often see wealthy buyers quietly acquiring top-graded coins, especially transitional issues like the 1998 P quarter. They're not just collecting, they're building legacy portfolios, assets that not only hold financial value, but emotional and cultural value too. Because when your grandchildren inherit that coin, they're not just receiving wealth. They're inheriting a story, one that says, "Our family noticed what others ignored." Now here's where things get even more fascinating. Recent discoveries have shown that several 1998 quarters, once thought to be ordinary, actually feature subtle experimental characteristics, slight plancher variances, traces of prototype designs, or even faint doubling under high magnification. These coins were likely part of pre-production tests for the State Quarter series. Imagine that, owning the bridge between two monumental eras of U.S. coinage. It's like finding a draft of the Declaration of Independence, with edits in the margins. Collectors who specialize in such transitional pieces know that once the numismatic community verifies an anomaly, prices can skyrocket overnight. The market feeds on revelation, and revelation demands patience. But patience is not passive. The best collectors are detectives. They study mint reports, cross-reference die marriages, and even analyze metallurgical compositions. They're part historian, part investor, part treasure hunter. And here's the beauty of it: anyone can join that hunt. You don't need to be wealthy to start. You just need attention, curiosity, and respect for the stories hidden in your change jar. That's the quiet magic of American coinage. Every drawer, every pocket, every coffee can in someone's attic could be holding a fragment of history worth far more than its face value. So tonight, after watching this, maybe you'll look at your change a little differently. Run your thumb across a Washington quarter. Feel the ridges. Examine the mint mark. Notice the light reflecting off Washington's cheek. Ask yourself, could this be the one? Because once, someone did just that, and their 25-cent curiosity turned into a $600,000 revelation. And if you're thinking, well, the odds are too small, remember this: every legendary discovery in numismatics began with someone who simply paid attention. The 1943 bronze Lincoln cent, the 1955 double die error, the 1932 D Washington quarter, all were once dismissed as rumors until one curious soul decided to look closer. The 1998 P quarter belongs to that same lineage of miracles, small metal circles that carry big stories. Here's a secret many dealers won't tell you. The next fortune in American coinage may not lie in the distant past, but in the recent decades, the transitional years, the experimental mints, the quiet shifts before major design changes. Those are the breeding grounds of hidden rarity. And the 1998 Philadelphia Mint Washington quarter stands as living proof. So as you go about your day, don't let the familiar fool you. The next time a quarter clinks into your hand, pause for just a heartbeat. because history doesn't always arrive wrapped in gold or locked in museums. Sometimes it sits quietly in your pocket, waiting for someone wise enough to notice. Every coin has two sides, one that everyone sees and one that only the discerning understand. Which side will you be on? In the world of numismatics, fortune doesn't favor the lucky, it favors the observant. The 1998 P. Washington quarter dollar reminds us of that eternal truth. Great wealth often hides in plain sight, disguised as something utterly ordinary, until you learn how to see. So keep looking, keep collecting, and who knows? Maybe one day the next $600,000 coin won't just be in a video like this one, it'll be in your hands.